The following clip you're about to watch was recorded by KK Marie, and what she witnessed that night shook her to her core. I want to make one thing very clear before you watch this. Her daughter was not home that night. According to Marie, she was at a sleepover. With that in mind, take a look at this.
Hey, get over here, get over here. Elena?
Mom, it's me. Mom,
Elena?
open the door. Open the door.
Oh my god.
Of course, Marie didn't open the door, and the longer she waited, the more something shifted in that voice, until what had started as a child asking to be let in became something else entirely. Something that dropped the pretense and just said, "Open the door," loud and demanding, like it had run out of patience. Another thing to consider is that they moved into this house just 4 months ago, brand new to the space, and in that vulnerable, unfamiliar period, something found them. There is a concept in paranormal research that some find more disturbing than the idea of a haunting in the traditional sense. The idea of a mimicking entity, a presence that studies the people in a space, learns their voices, learns the names they respond to, and uses that information deliberately, not to communicate, but to manipulate, to get a door opened, or to get someone to lower their guard at the worst possible moment. These accounts exist across cultures and across centuries, and what they share is that same detail. A familiar voice, just slightly off, asking to be let in. The truly chilling part is what might have happened if she had opened that door, because whatever was on the other side knew her daughter's voice well enough to use it, and when that didn't work, it stopped pretending. So what exactly was that? I'll leave you to be the judge of that. This next clip comes from a woman who has been living in an old house for 2 years now. And in that time, she's experienced enough to fill a list that most people wouldn't want to read alone at night. But one experience in particular stood out even among everything else she'd been through: a smell. Not just any smell, but the distinct, unmistakable odor of rotten flesh lingering in one of the rooms for 5 straight days. No source, no dead animal found in the walls, no explanation from anyone who came to look. And then, on the 5th day, just as suddenly as it arrived, it was gone. In paranormal research, unexplained smells, particularly the smell of decay, are considered one of the more significant signs of a dark presence. Some investigators believe certain entities carry a physical signature, a scent that bleeds into a space when they are most active, most present, most aware. The fact that it lasted 5 days and then vanished without explanation has never sat right with her, and honestly, it's hard to blame her for that. But as unsettling as that was, she says nothing compares to this. Watch. Now, a rattling doorknob on its own might be explainable, but in a house with a 2-year history of experiences that keep building on each other, it stops feeling like a coincidence and starts feeling like a pattern. And patterns in paranormal research tend to point towards something with intention behind it. There is a theory that sits at the darker end of these conversations, that certain presences don't reveal themselves all at once. They start small, almost testing the boundaries of a space and the person living in it, introducing themselves gradually through smell, through sound, through movement. Each occurrence slightly more direct than the last. The smell that came and went, the sounds she's reported, and now something on the other side of a door, rattling the knob like it's deciding whether or not it's ready to come through. So if this is a pattern, and everything about this house suggests that it is, then the real question isn't what was behind that door. It's what happens when it finally decides to stop knocking and just walks through. This next clip comes from a home security camera. Watch the doll sitting on the floor.
Todo el mundo sigue. Ya, mí. Tú aquí, tranquila. Ahora nos vamos a cerrar. ¿Ves?
Did you see the doll move its head? More than once, slowly turning in the direction of the little girl, like it's watching her play. The movement is unmistakable, and it is not subtle. There is something about a doll that makes this particular kind of clip land differently than most. Dolls are designed to look human. The eyes, the proportions, the stillness of them. And across a wide range of paranormal traditions, there is a long-standing belief that objects modeled after the human form are among the easiest vessels for a presence to inhabit. That something about the shape invites occupation in a way that a chair or a lamp simply doesn't. A doll that turns its head toward a child while the child plays is exactly the kind of thing those accounts describe. And the fact that the little girl has no idea it's happening makes it significantly harder to watch. But that wasn't the end of it. The next part of the clip is even scarier. Now, the instinct is to say wind, except there was no fan running in that room. And what makes that explanation fall apart completely is what happens next. When she runs, it stops. When she comes back, it starts again. The papers, the objects on the table, everything responding directly to her presence. And then, as if making a point, whatever was doing it began dragging the entire table. The wind doesn't pause when a child leaves the room. Wind doesn't wait for her to come back. And wind certainly doesn't drag furniture. What's most disturbing about this case isn't any single clip. It's the fact that whatever is in that house seems specifically interested in her. The doll that watches her play, the papers that react to her movements, the table that moves when she returns. Everything pointing in her direction, everything aware of exactly where she is. In some of the darker corners of paranormal research, there are accounts of attachments, presences that don't haunt a place, but haunt a person, following them from room to room, feeding off their energy, drawn to the innocence and openness that young children carry in a way adults simply don't anymore. This little girl has no idea she's being watched, and whatever is watching her has made itself very comfortable in that house. This next clip was posted by a man whose history with whatever is in his house goes far beyond a moving object or a strange sound. Once, while praying and attempting to cast the spirit out, the holy water bottle was knocked clean out of his hands. Another time, sitting quietly at night, something grabbed his head and yanked it backwards. These aren't things he's interpreting. They happened to him, physically, in his own home. And then one night, while he was sleeping, his camera caught this. Under normal circumstances, orb footage is easy to dismiss. A smudge on the lens, a moth crossing the frame, light catching dust. But nothing about this man's situation is normal. When you place this clip inside the context of everything else that has happened in that house, it stops being something you can file away comfortably. The dog is the detail that anchors it. It tracks the orb's exact path in real time, all the way to the bed where its owner is sleeping, completely unaware. And dogs don't follow dust particles. Some believe orbs represent the most basic form a presence takes when it isn't expending the energy required to fully manifest. Others believe they move with far more intention than that. Whatever crossed that room made it all the way to his bed, and he slept through the whole thing. What do you think that is? I'll leave you to be the judge of that. This next clip was recorded in an old house with a history of strange activity, the kind of place where things have been happening long enough that the people involved have stopped being surprised. A room where an old clock has moved on its own before, and strange voices and sounds have been heard, among other things that have never been fully explained. But nothing quite like this.
Mărturisesc că
Hai de
sunt
mine,
vinovat
dacă
focului de veci, viermilor neadormiți. Mai
Uai de mine! Uai de mine, ce-a fost asta?
Oi, să învârtea scaunul!
Uai de mine, ai văzut?
Doi, să învârtea
Mamă, frate, ce-a fost asta?
Uite așa să învârtea scaunul.
Vai de mine, dacă l-am... Vai, Leo, ce-a fost asta? Mamă, frate, am prins-o pe cameră, jur.
Oi, haide mai că...
Paranormal researchers believe that there is a significant difference between a presence that passively inhabits a space and one that actively defends it. The latter suggests something territorial, something aware, something that has claimed that room as its own and has no interest in being observed or disturbed. Some investigators believe these kinds of presences grow stronger the longer they go unchallenged. That years of undisturbed occupation in a space gives them a level of energy and authority that makes confrontations like this one almost inevitable. The clock moving on its own was a warning, but this was something else entirely. Two men walked into that room. Whatever was already in there made its feelings very clear. I'll leave you to judge what exactly they were dealing with. This next clip comes from a woman whose relationship with the paranormal goes deeper than most. She's had recurring dreams, or what feel less like dreams and more like memories, of herself living in the early 18th century. Flashbacks of carriages, of suffering, of a life that doesn't belong to her current one, but feels disturbingly familiar. Whether you believe in past lives or not, that kind of recurring, detailed experience is difficult to simply write off as an overactive imagination. So when something strange happens around her, it tends to carry a little more weight than it might with someone else. This time, she and her family were staying at an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, and then at 3 a.m., this happens.
Is there someone at the door? That's not creepy.
Her grandfather goes out to check, and there is no one there. No person, no car, nothing as far as the eye can see in any direction. 3 a.m. in an isolated location is already the kind of detail that makes paranormal investigators pay attention. But what makes this particular clip harder to dismiss is the woman it happened to. Because when someone with her history of experiences ends up in a remote location in the dead of night, with a doorbell ringing and no one at the door, it's hard not to wonder whether something followed her there. Some believe certain people are more visible to whatever exists on the other side, that a history of past life memories, of unexplained experiences, acts almost like a signal, drawing attention from things that most people remain completely invisible to. If that's true, then wherever this woman goes, she may never really be alone. No one rang that doorbell, but something wanted them to come to the door. I'll leave you to be the judge of what that something was. This next clip was posted by a concerned mum whose sister and stepdaughter were just recording themselves playing together. Nothing unusual about the moment, just two girls having fun. But then, right after one of them says, no, something else says it too. Listen carefully.
Put your legs down.
No, because I'm not
Doing.
No,
What's that?
A voice, clear enough to stop them both instantly. No, don't, almost protective in its tone, like whatever said it was watching them play and genuinely didn't want anyone to get hurt. What makes this one particularly interesting is the nature of the voice itself. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't threatening, it intervened. And that specific quality, a presence that speaks up to protect rather than to frighten, points towards something that some researchers describe as a guardian attachment, an entity connected to a person or a family, one that has appointed itself a kind of silent watchman over the people in that space. Others would argue that the most dangerous presences are precisely the ones that introduce themselves gently, that something willing to speak up in a moment like this is also something that has been in that room long enough to feel comfortable doing so. Either way, whatever spoke in that room that day, it was paying very close attention. This next clip comes from a home security camera, and what it captures happens the moment the owners leave. Fix your eyes on the door, the window, and the stove. If you shift your attention to the window, there's a reflection moving inside the house. Something going from room to room, passing through the space like it owns it, moving freely now that the people who actually live there are gone. And then, for just a moment, when the lights go off, we see what looks like a face, and then the stove comes on. That last detail is the one that tends to silence a room, because a door can be explained, a reflection can be questioned, a face in a window can be argued either way, but a stove turning itself on in an empty house is a physical, mechanical event that requires something to have made it happen. What this clip suggests, and what makes it deeply unsettling, is that whatever is in that house has been waiting, coexisting quietly while the owners are present, and then moving freely, deliberately, the moment they leave. That kind of behavior points towards something with full awareness of the people it shares that space with, something that knows their schedule, knows when they're gone, and has its own way of spending the time. So, what do you think it is? I'll leave you to be the judge.